Well, howdy, and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. And I am wearing a cowboy hat. Do not ask why I own this. I am not going to tell you. This was the American Grand Prix from Austin, Texas. Our second American Grand Prix of the year. And next year there will be three. This was a strange race. I wouldn't say it was an incredible watch. It's had incidents. We'll discuss them. But the on-track action, until the very end, it wasn't great. The only overtakes, once again, are your standard DRS overtakes. And it doesn't make exciting action. But that's something I've complained about too many times for it to be mentioned here again, except briefly and hypocritically. No, this was, in many ways, one of the strangest races this season. And a lot happened during it. And I was really impressed by Carlos Sainz getting pole position on Saturday. And I really thought he had a good chance of taking his second Formula One win here. He just seemed to have a lot of pace and confidence in that car. So what happened at the first corner was very, very unfortunate. Now, I don't think it was entirely George Russell's fault. I don't really know where else he could have gone. He just made contact with Sainz, Sainz spun, and it was enough to damage the Ferrari, and that was the end of Carlos Sainz's race. That's kind of been the story of his year. He's been taken out by no fault of his own a couple of times, along with mechanical issues that have ruined good point scoring opportunities for Sainz. It's something beyond his control, because when he is just getting his head down doing his race, Carlos Sainz is very, very good. And we're just not seeing the best from him because things keep happening to stop him. And I think he'd be much higher up the table if he just had a bit better luck. As for George Russell, it didn't really destroy his race. I think he was going to finish 5th, whatever happened. All around that. He only got a 5-second penalty, which I think was fair. I don't think he lost out too much, so kind of works out the way it probably should have. It's just a shame that Carlos Sainz didn't finish the race. So Verstappen led early on from Hamilton. Early on we saw Nicholas Latifi have his weekly spin, and then Bottas went off into the gravel, and that brought out the safety car. And I think they said it was the first safety car at Austin since 2015, which is a very long time, especially as we got two in this race, because after the Bottas car was collected and moved out of the way, on the restart Alonso went into the back of Stroll in a very nasty looking accident, and that was the end of Stroll's race, which was a shame because he was another one who was doing very, very well. I think he would definitely be challenging for top 5 in this one. He was not really off their pace, but he was around about challenging for top 5 at least. So this was a big loss for Stroll. I would say it's his fault. He clearly jinked to the left when he shouldn't have. But for Alonso to carry on was pretty incredible. That Alpine is one of the strongest machines I've ever seen in my life. It was the Spa round, the Belgium Grand Prix. Hamilton hit Alonso pretty hard. It launched the Mercedes in the air, but the Alpine was fine. He just kept going. This race, he smashes into the back of Lance Stroll, which is heavy impact 1. He gets launched into the air, takes a hard landing, so heavy impact 2. He then slams into the barrier pretty hard, so that's heavy impact 3. And the car was fine. He just drove back to the pits, went back out. Fernando Alonso finished 7th. Absolutely fine. That is unbelievable. I don't know what they make that Alpine out of, but it is space technology. That's the only way I can explain how Alonso keeps surviving these massive incidents. But disappointment for Stroll. And that pretty much sums up his Formula 1 career, really. After that, race carried on. Nothing really interesting happened until Verstappen pitted. they had problems on their front left. Verstappen dropped behind Hamilton and Charles Leclerc. But he came out right behind Charles. They had another good battle. They've had a few this year. This one was pretty good. But it didn't last very long. It was literally a few laps, and then the real action was a couple of corners. Verstappen got him on the DRS. At this point, I thought that was the race done. I thought Hamilton, he was far enough ahead. You didn't need to worry about him. And it was just going to be Verstappen pulling a little bit away from Leclerc. That was the race done. I did not expect Verstappen to claw back the 4.5 seconds to Hamilton, get past him, and still pull another 2-3 seconds. That is incredible driving. Verstappen is just on another level to everyone else right now. Because that Red Bull is not that far ahead of Ferrari. And he came out behind Leclerc on the same tyres. Not only did he pass Leclerc, he left Leclerc behind, clawed his way back up to Hamilton, just strolled past him, and then the last 5 or 6 laps, Hamilton couldn't really get back in touch with him. He had DRS down the straights for a while, but it was done and dusted because Verstappen had just destroyed everything. And on a weekend where Dieter Mateschitz, the owner of Red Bull, passed away, he's very important in terms of bringing the brand to extreme sports in general, but also Formula One, most importantly of all. The Red Bull team, the AlphaTauri team. It's been an impressive run under his ownership, considering this team was Jaguar at one point, and how bad they were, and how hard Red Bull had to try in the early days when they had David Coulthard racing for them. They've come a long way, and it's a shame he wasn't there to see them take the Constructors' Championship. What the commentators didn't really talk about was Red Bull winning the Constructors' Championship ends Mercedes' run of 8 Constructors' Championships in a row. There's no number 9 for them. That should be really important. That's era-changing stuff. And yet we barely mentioned it, and I feel that's a bit disingenuous. And again, as I've said before, I do have problems with how the British media cover Formula One. They have clear favouritism, and definitely they are against Red Bull. But it's important that Red Bull have won the Constructors' Championship. Definitely for them. I think it justifies everything they've done over the last few years. I think it validates Verstappen even more. Not that he needs it at the moment, because he's just a destroyer of mortal men. And 13th win this season, as Verstappen said, it's not really the same as when Schumacher and even Sebastian Vettel did it, because they had less races to do it in. It was sort of more impressive in a way. But at the same time, he could theoretically have 16 race wins in a single season. There were Formula One seasons that were 16 races long. There were Formula One seasons that were like 8 races long, I suppose. But it's still an incredible number of races to win in a single year. It has been unbelievable from Verstappen this year. He has taken it to another level. Was this a 10 out of 10 performance? Yeah, from Verstappen I think it was. He did nothing wrong all weekend. Okay, maybe 9.5 because he didn't get pole. But he got hampered at a pit stop. It wasn't his mistake, it was a problem with a gun. Nothing they could do about it. And he took the win still, so pretty much perfect. This was a good weekend for Hamilton as well. Finishing second, I think he'd be happy with that, but I bet he is massively disappointed he couldn't hold on to that win. Really, it's by a few seconds, and he'll be thinking about all the moments in the race where he could have, kept that, or where he lost time and whatnot. Charles Leclerc did well to battle back to third. Didn't really talk about how he got dropped because of, I think it was an engine change. So he had to fight his way through the field, and he did so pretty easily. Decent third place for him. Perez, pretty anonymous in this race, but he finished fourth. Russell, probably lucky to finish fifth, but fair on performance. Norris had a pretty quiet race, sort of just going about his business, and he did very well to finish sixth. Alonso, an incredible job to get seventh after what he went through. And then we have Vettel in eighth. Brilliant drive from him. Again, he was hampered by a very long pit stop. I really think he would have been sixth. Massive shame for him and Aston Martin. At one point in this race, I think Aston Martin were on for big points, and that went away. Very, very disappointing for them. Vettel's last US Grand Prix. At the very least, he's taken some points, but it could have been better, and he deserves better. Magnussen did well to hang on to 9th, and I think it's Haas's first points for a while. I think he only one stopped, so it was a good job from him to get to the end. And he was ahead of Yuki Tsunoda, who took the final points. Much needed in his case, because I think, again, it's been a while since he scored points. So I'm very happy for the Japanese driver. Behind them, I'd say a user bunch, but actually Esteban Ocon was 11th. He did not seem to have any pace this weekend. I mean, he started near the back because he went out in Q1. Very surprising from Esteban Ocon. He was driving very well at the start this year, and it's sort of gone away from him a bit. Behind him, Alexander Albon in 12th. Decent drive from the Williams driver. He was in the points near the end of the race. I think he once stopped as well, so maybe his tyres just went away. Guan Yu Zhou was 13th. Very disappointed in him. He looked very quick in qualifying. Unlucky to have a lap time deleted. I was very impressed by the Chinese driver, but it just didn't work out in the race, and Alfa Romeo again get no points this weekend. Gasly 14th had a terrible weekend. He got a penalty for a safety car infringement, and other than that, he was pretty anonymous again this weekend. In fact, this season has been dreadful for the Frenchman, and he'll be happy to leave AlphaTauri behind and jump into an Alpine next year. I think Ricciardo was 15th. Terrible weekend again. I think he's just waiting for the year to end. Possibly Schumacher in 16th. Again, we saw glimpses of speed from him this weekend. I think he's doing a good job, but I don't know if it's enough to save his seat. Latifi 17th, we know he's going. I'm sure, again, he is waiting for this year to end because it has been horrendous for him. And then Stroll, Bottas and Sainz did not finish the race. So that was the US Grand Prix. We've talked about the teams. Red Bull Constructors Champions confirmed, Verstappen Drivers Champion. But there are a few announcements for next year that we can talk about. Logan Sargent has been announced as the Williams driver for 2023, as long as he can get his super license points. I think he only needs to finish in the top 6 in the championship in Formula 2 with 1 round left. He's had a bad run in Formula 2, so it's not certain, but I would put money on him getting that Williams seat. I think Logan Sargent will do just fine. Is he a step up from Nicholas Latifi? Honestly, I don't know. You have to wait and see. As I said, he's had a bad run in Formula 2, but again, the start of this year, he was fantastic. And he was a driver I wrote off completely a couple of years ago. When he was struggling in Formula 3, I think it was 2020 or 2021, so not even that long ago, I did my usual top 5 most disappointing drivers in Formula 3, and I put Logan Sargent on that list and said there's no hope of him ending up in Formula 1. He should just go to IndyCar and be happy there. He's now got a Formula 1 seat. So again, my predictions are absolutely terrible. Nick De Vries is going to AlphaTauri, which I'm very happy about. I think Nick De Vries really deserves a Formula 1 shot. When you think about it, Nick De Vries beat Nicholas Latifi in the Formula 2 Championship, and yet Latifi's had 3 years in Formula 1, and Nick De Vries is only just getting his start now. I don't know if it'll be a straight swap. I can see Nicholas Latifi going to Formula E with a few seats left there for next year, so that'll be one to keep an eye on. I don't think Latifi's a terrible driver. I just don't think he's doing very well this season in Formula 1. There were others, I think. I can't remember who else has moved around. I think there's been quite a few seats swapped. I think Esteban Ocon going to Alpine was the one that triggered this. Nick De Vries to AlphaTauri. So that's that covered. And very briefly, I'll mention Red Bull breaching the cost cap regulations, whatever they are. It's a messy situation, but I don't think Red Bull are going to lose the 2021 championship because of it. I think that'd be a very harsh punishment. Apparently it is less than £2 million or dollars, whatever. So a minor breach and technically a first offence. As much as Hamilton and Toto Wolff and Gunther Steiner are complaining about it in the media and crying, I don't think the FIA will take it that seriously. Because if they do a points deduction and it costs Verstappen the championship, that's a pretty severe punishment. So when next year someone else breaches it by more, how do you punish them more? So I think the FIA are just going to find a level. And by the sounds of it, Red Bull are going to fight it anyway because they still don't think they have breached it. And this could be a very complicated situation. So I think on that one, we're just going to have to wait and see how it pans out. And just to be clear, every team broke for budget rules last year. We are aware of that, right? I mean, they must hire people to do it for them. I'm guessing they have accountants and stuff to fill the books. But I guarantee at some point, Gunther Steiner was wearing a trench coat in a darkened car park and was buying cheap parts paid for in cash in a briefcase, which was mysteriously loaded onto a van with no number plates. Guarantee they found a way around these budget rules. So all this bitching and moaning in the media, it is literally just that. And as I said, Red Bull and Aston Martin have breached the rules, but I don't think they're going to get severe penalties first time out. I think they will. I mean, from what I read, the FIA left it open-ended so it would discourage teams from doing it, so they could apply whatever penalty they wanted to match the crime. The flaw in that is people have still breached it, so it was stupid. And if you said in the rules, if you go over your budget cap by, let's say, $2 million, next year, or in 2023, you will have $2 million less to spend. Fine, enforce it. That's a reasonable punishment. And if you write that in the rules, then everyone knows that's the punishment that applies to that rule. So why can't you just have one punishment set to that rule? Why have it so open-ended and just leave everyone going, we don't know what's going on? And again, like, it calls into question of a 2021 championship, which, if they do a points deduction, technically still hasn't ended yet. Which I think I said at the time this championship's going to go on until 2025, and I think that's a real possibility. But I will keep you updated on the budget cap rules and penalties, whatever. I think in the driver market there's still a seat or two left up for the taking. I don't think they're all set yet. They might be. I honestly don't know at this point. No, Mick Schumacher at Haas. So I think we're just waiting for Haas to confirm who'll be driving for them, and then 2023's grid will be set. So it shouldn't be too much longer, really. I don't think Haas will wait too long. Other than that, I will keep you updated on all the motorsport news of interest. So thank you for watching this review of the US Grand Prix and all the extra little bits as well. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Ever-growing community, I thank you all for your support. I know I'm terrible at answering comments, but I will get around to it at some point. And other than that, have a good one, and I will see you next weekend. Maybe a little late, actually. I'm doing something next weekend, but I will do a review of the Mexican Grand Prix at some point. But I will have other videos out next week as well. So yeah, subscribe. Thank you for watching. Have a good one.